Your mother had always said that you always tried to love things that would never love you back. Stray animals, inanimate objects, and your father. And while I had always assumed growing up that you just had enough love to spread to people who needed it the most, the cruelty of the world was ever ready to remind you of the truth. And that truth being that people like yourself, who were so willing at throwing your affections at people who would for sure end up breaking you, in the end, the idea of the object of your current affections somehow returning the hug you so desperately needed was always the thing you clung to, and you'd end up bitten, scratched, ignored, or screamed at by people. And it turns out your recent endeavor had left you in shambles. But this one was much worse than the ones before, because this time, your heart wasn't broken, but rather disintegrating. Seriously? She's way too much. His words stung. The idea of him never liking you as much as you liked him was one thing, but to find out that he, in fact, didn't even like you as a peer was enough to finally eradicate the thinning strain on your hope. This stupid emotion called love wasn't as romantic as so many childhood tales had promised. It couldn't break curses, drive the hero to surpass great odds, or even save a soul from despair. Instead, it brought heartache and aggressive thoughts. It brought embarrassment and regret. It brought the opposite of what it was supposed to bring. Love was a lie, and you were a fool to hang on to its 12 strings as long as you did. Truthfully, when Kaminari had spoken up about his intention to ask her out, the ash blonde felt his stomach drop. The mere idea of that cheap knockoff Pikachu spending time with her in more than just a romantic sense, it was sickening. He wasn't sure when these feelings started, or when he finally brightened up enough to actually realize that the reason his chest bumped hard and his stomach flipped wasn't because he was sick. Bakugou spoke without thinking. His own selfish emotions toward his classmate being careless. He wasn't sure what his intention to Kaminari was, but for whatever reason, his heart decided to let his brain take on the approach of turning Kaminari off the thought of YN, a decision that would soon become a mistake. Bakugou didn't lie too often, but at that moment, he decided to make a terrible lie after lie. His words seemed to draw on the idea that he really despised you. The final kicker being the too much phrase, the same one that nearly every strong female hero had always shared about in interviews. Growing up, boys always told me I was too much, that I wasn't ladylike, or not the ideal female hero. And to the boys who say that to girls, grow up. Girls are under no obligation to handle themselves in a way that you can manage, so stop thinking we should. And, while he agreed wholeheartedly with the statement, he had said it with such ease that it was as if he really did have the idea that YN was too much, when, if anything, he was being a hypocrite. He later a firecracker of 1A saying a peer was too much. Talk about irony. When his little speech was over, it wasn't Kaminari who spoke up next, or even Kirishima, the only person aside from him who knew of his feelings towards his shared classmate. The sound that came next was the echoing of something being dropped, and a door being slammed. The scary remains of a love letter and a homemade chocolate with a hint of chili powder in them let Bakugou know who exactly was here. The letter smelled of her perfume, and she'd be the only person kind enough to try and make him sweet so they held the flavor he loved so much. Damn it. It was later in the day now. The initial shock and tears had finally dried up. All that remained was a burning sensation of pure hatred. Not towards the person who broke your heart, but towards yourself. And while you for sure would be saying a few choice words to Bakugou when your emotions were stable enough, and ready to let off the steam, you were positive that you were not at the current point. And so, until then, you would remain inside your room, destroying anything that held the old outlook of love you had. No more pain, no more reminders, no more love. And while at times it was useful to be able to use your ability to control electromagnetic fields to help you fight, at this moment, you were using it for your own selfish gain. But for all you cared, if it made you even feel slightly better, then you didn't care. Photos, decorations, books, anything. You didn't care. If it had a heart on it, it was going to be cut into a million pieces, with scissors you were levitating. You were so into your small world of hatred and anger that you didn't notice the person pounding on your door. Kirishima stood his ground, having taken over the situation since the trees reached climax a few hours ago. He had cleared and explained Bakugou's words to Kaminari, explained that their blunt friend actually was in love with YN. Kaminari understood, decided to back off since he wasn't as infatuated as Bakugou was. The redhead now stood behind Bakugou, forcing him to go to apologize to you. Bakugou had attempted to convince himself that this would blow over, but it was rather obvious to Kirishima that this wasn't something that would blow over. Whether it was an accident or not, Bakugou did something he shouldn't have, and now needed to make amends. So, after a few stern words of his own, and welcome with him here, Kirishima watched his friend knock. I ain't gonna chicken out, so get the hell out of here. Bakugou spat, his back to Kirishima. I never said you were, man. Kirishima spoke, watching as the knock-in turned into Bakugou forcing himself into the room. Remember, keyboard timbre on low, and be honest. Don't mess up again cause you won't get a third chance. Yeah, now scram, the blonde huffed, walking into an unlocked room. Clicking the door behind him, could see you leaning against the bed, watching as a pair of loaded scissors cut apart a few items on her desk. He was a bro, unsure of what the heck you were doing, but decided to test his luck anyway. Hey, he began, only to stop when he glanced over at him. Your eyes widened, and then narrowed, a burning wave of hair in them. He nearly rolled away from the gaze, but kept his eyes locked. He eventually broke away first, not wanting to look at him. Get out! Not until I talk first, shitface. When talking is lost. You huffed, placing the scissors on your desk, watching Bakugou come towards you from the corner of your eye. He grunted as he sat on the ground next to you, watching as you tried your damn hardest not to look at him, or acknowledge him more than you already had. He swallowed the buildup of salvia in his mouth. The sweat on his hands rubbing against his pants, taking it away. Damn nerves. Don't mess it up. Again. Listen, cause I'm only gonna say it once. He held his tongue. Kirishima's warning of being soft and low-tempered broke in his back. I'm sorry. I got jealous and said some shit I shouldn't have. YN didn't answer, only to add a long sigh. Bakugou glanced at her, seeing her form still stiff and unmoving as it had been before. Why the hell were you jealous? She finally spoke, that single word sticking out the most in his apology. Bakugou clicked his tongue, head ducked in so his face wasn't seen. You were certain he was grinding his teeth from the look of him, his mannerisms as flawless as usual. The shit-faced Kaminari was going to ask you out, so I lost it. Why did you even care? Too much, right? He repeated his words back to him. The stink's so fresh for you both. I care because I wanted to be the one to ask you out. He suddenly shouted, his own emotions giving him that final push in his embarrassment and frustrations with himself. I wanted to be the one to ask you out. Then why did you say that? Your voice cracked, not caring that the boy you had liked for so long had actually confessed through hard words. Why would you say something so cruel? I don't know. I just thought that if I turned Kaminari off that no one would take you from me. But turns out, I'm my own worst enemy. You should have just said you liked me. We could have avoided all of this. Your eyes watered up, and broke, cascading down your cheeks. And the worst, I messed up really bad. He sighed, a hand running down through 12 locks. But don't think that me telling you my reasoning is good enough. My feelings haven't changed, but I sure as hell don't deserve to date you right now. I'm gonna make this up to you. I'm gonna fix this. And when I finally deserve the chance to take you out, then I hope you'll let me. You're gonna have to try hard then. I don't think I can trust you anytime soon. Hey, he touched your chin, pulling your eyes to his. I don't back down from a challenge, and I sure as hell don't give up. And despite it all, somewhere in your heart, you're ready to see him try. You're ready to place your hope in him. And maybe, along the way, you could learn to fall in love with him again.